this is just this little bossa samba Brazilian rhythm that I'm just playing around with here. Here's the thing. I can play this much easier because my right hand is really used to doing things. If I always played with a pick, if I always just played a particular style like bluegrass or just fingerstyle guitar, something like that, then I would not be nearly as able to just pick up and play something like that as I am. But classical guitar has some real advantages to playing any type of other music. And so in this video, you will hear 4 ways that classical guitar study can really boost your ability to play any style in any world music in any particular genre that you would like to play. So, very beneficial. Here are 4 ways. I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed, and I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, then subscribe to this channel, and then we can do it again. Number 1 reason why classical guitar is so good for playing other styles is that it just trains your hands to work really well. We were just talking about this. So as we're working right hand technique, classical guitar, and the difference between classical and fingerstyle guitar and other types is that we really study how to play in the best way for our hands and the abilities so that we can play fast, clean, for long times without doing any sort of damage, wear and tear on the hands, repetitive stress injuries. All these things really happen. Inflamed knuckles, they're really common for people, especially if you're bracing the pinky or doing these things that are really common in a lot of different styles, bluegrass, things like that. Instead, for classical guitar, we really look at technique. Where is my form and positioning? How am I moving my fingers? How do I get a really nice sound? All of these things. And so the control that comes with that is immense. Even if it's not your goal to play Bach, even if it's not your goal to play, the dead European music, then you can still just gain lots of physical prowess from playing the classical guitar and studying the classical guitar. Same thing with the left hand. To be able to play these things so that all the notes are clear, then we really have to look at the specifics of hand angle and finger placement and doing all these things. So your hands just become way better whenever you study classical guitar. And that's enough reason, I think, in itself to spend at least some time working on classical guitar technique. Because if your hands can do it and your brain can think it, then you can bring that to whatever it is that you're playing, be it metal or Zydeco or anything else. Actually, a lot of heavy metal players have classical training because it's so virtuosic. And so it's a natural cousin, oddly, that classical guitar and virtuosic heavy metal guitar, a lot of people cross over those. Number 2, and that is that you learn about music theory and composition from playing classical guitar pieces. So this is song forms. You get this from playing other music as well, but you'll have more and varied education from playing classical music or playing composed music. Just because it says classical in the title of classical guitar doesn't mean that you actually have to play classical music. There's also Brazilian music and Spanish music and Japanese music. There's tons. It's basically anything. And classical guitar is just the technique whereby you're doing it. Playing composed, intentional music. Well, if you're writing a lot of your own stuff, one of the things that you can get from playing classical guitar pieces is ideas for new progressions. You really might like something that you hear in a piece. You take that out, spin it around, and use that as fodder for your own compositions. And that's a really common usage of playing classical guitar music. You might also learn new chords, new ways of putting chords together, voicings, way of hearing the bass voices versus the upper melody voices. There's a lot to go on in classical music. Number 3, and that is interpretation and expression. This is a big one. One of my main beefs with a lot of jazz guitarists is that while what they're playing is absolutely beautiful, how they're playing it isn't. So the notes that they're choosing, the rhythms that they're choosing, I just think are out of this world brilliant. But the actual musicality of it, oftentimes I find very lacking. in jazz guitarists, even very well-known jazz guitarists. And it's because all of the focus has gone into choosing the notes and the rhythms and doing that, and not very much has gone into connecting it and making melodies beautiful and making them flow and sound really good. So it's a different thing. It's not, there's notes and rhythm, and then there's how do you play those notes and rhythm? How do you breathe life into those? And that is one of the things that we can do with classical guitar. We can really work on, in playing pieces, making the melody so that it gets louder, it gets softer, certain notes come out, other ones don't. Certain notes are connected to each other, other ones are separated, but how much are they separated? So once we start diving into this, then you can appreciate much more all of these little nuances and all these little touches and effects, and they really pull on the heartstrings. They really speak to us. When we hear them, they're like, and it sounds inevitable. Like, of course it's played that way. But until we play it that way, it's not inevitable. And so we have to do that. Beautiful music doesn't just play itself. We have to do it, but how do you do it? That's something that we can study in classical guitar music. And the number 4 reason that I'll bring up here is performance skills. If you memorize a classical guitar piece and play it, it's a different level of preparation than jamming with the guys. Even if there is the chord progression that you're remembering and you're taking solos and stuff, it's a different level of mental focus and just mental effort to memorize a piece of music note by note and go out and play it by yourself for people. It's a bit of a different level of performance skill. Now, of course, especially in virtuosic music, heavy metal, oftentimes if there are dual solos or if there is a written solo, then that also is very similar to the same thing. But with the classical guitar, it's so exposed. If you're just going to sit there with just you and an acoustic guitar and play for somebody, and you have all of these desires that you want this to get louder and this to get softer, and there's a specific set of notes and rhythms because it's what's on the page, then keeping all that in your mind and playing that while breathing the emotion into it, while you're a little bit nervous, it's a great mental game. It's a really nice challenge. And so that skill can really carry over to anything else that you're playing. Confidence, security in your pieces, just the ability to prepare in that. If you're doing this, then you just get good at preparing pieces to that level so that you can then play them, and you can carry that into your other pieces. Also, if you're doing kind of a formalized thing, then you also get better at introducing your pieces and talking about them and learning about them and being able to welcome people into it instead of saying, here's a piece of music, enjoy it. If it's one of these avant-garde pieces or something like that, you really have to welcome people into that and tell them what to listen to and how to enjoy it. Otherwise, they won't. And so if you want to play that kind of music, then it really helps to have some performance skills to be able to introduce it to people so that they like it. So these are 4 reasons. Just to recap them again, first off, we just have better working hands, the more ability to play what we hear in our head, get nice things in our head, and our hands can actually play them. The second one is music theory and just composition and just understanding music, getting ideas for our own music and exploring music, bringing it to other music. And so that's the second one. The third benefit is interpretation and expression. This is actually what you have in your head. Once your hands can do it, then the question is, okay, so what do you want them to do? This is the study of that. I want it to go like this. And that's the expression, that's the intention behind it, and that's a skill in itself. It just doesn't come to us as much as we think that it would. We actually need to learn what makes music beautiful. How do I play it beautifully? What makes a line a line? Just like whenever I ask a question, what makes a question a question? Well, I actually did something with my voice. Same thing with music. There's things that we can do to make it more beautiful, and that's something that we can learn in classical guitar pieces. And number 4, performance skills. To be able to prepare and play in front of people things that are really challenging and really mentally rich. It's a great skill to be able to have. So I hope you have enjoyed these 4 benefits of classical guitar. If you'd like to study classical guitar, we have a whole program over at Classical Guitar Shed. You can go over there and check it out if you'd like to, or follow the link below this video. but we work with people all over the world on all of these things to get their playing better. A lot of folks are not classical guitar players in general, but they play other styles, and they come to us to just get better on the guitar and just to get new ideas and a new experience of playing the guitar. So if you'd like to do that, we'd love to have you. Thanks so much for watching this video, and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.